It's Monday, October 25th of 2021, and my intro did not get recorded as a video today on Guy's Daily Drive. And good morning to everyone. Thank you so very, very much for joining me today here on Guy's Daily Drive as I make my way to work again. Now, in the intro, I said it was an annoying weekend. It kind of was. We didn't do a My Mac podcast, and part of the reason, well, there was a couple of reasons why. Number one, Gaz wasn't going to be available. He had some stuff going on, which, you know, completely understandable. It's like, do that stuff that you want to do because it's a lot of fun, or spend up to 2 hours sitting in front of your computer talking to me. I know which one I would choose, and apparently Gaz does too. But the second reason, because normally when that happens, I'll just go ahead and find someone else to do the podcast with. I've done it with Carl on a number of occasions. Carl Madden of Mac and Forth Show. Plug. But I got a call on Friday, or a text on Friday, from my neighbor, Pete. He's the one that has the season tickets to pretty much everything in this area. If there's a sports team in this area, chances are Pete has tickets to go see them. Anyway, he contacted me and asked if I wanted to go to the Baltimore Ravens game yesterday in Baltimore, naturally. And it had been 2 years. Certainly we didn't go during the COVID year, and it had been, I don't even know if we went to a game the season before then. But regardless, he got a hold of me. What's everybody doing here? He got a hold of me and asked me if I wanted to go to the game. They were playing Cincinnati, which is a divisional game, so those are always fun. And I was like, yeah, wasn't doing the podcast on Sunday, so sure, why the heck not? Certainly. So tickets have gone up in price, of course. $125 now for tickets. Unbelievable. So expensive. But I wanted to see the game. And to kind of add insult to injury, when you get all the way out to where the stadium is, hold on a second. You get all the way out to where the stadium is, and there used to be just a series of kind of ramshackle, slightly worn down warehouses that everybody used to park at. It was, grassy fields, and sometimes if it was raining, you'd actually be in mud, and, whatever. It was $25-$30 to park, which, we were kind of, at the time, we were kind of like, really, to park in a muddy field? $25, $30, $35. But it was like, okay, it was really, really close to the stadium. Very, very convenient for getting in and out, because it's right off of 295 and 95. Two big highways that go up from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. And then they tore all those buildings down and built a casino. No hotel, just a casino with big parking deck. And the first time we went, we pull up, and it was $80. $80 to park in this parking lot. However, Pete, being the smart guy that he is, when we went ahead and paid it and parked, because we were kind of stuck at that point. He went to check it out, and as it turns out, if you become a platinum member, which is free for this casino, you don't have to pay for parking, which is good, because when we went yesterday, parking had gone up to $100. $100 to park in this parking lot, which granted is close, but it's like, God, the tickets to the game are almost that much. But because Pete had his platinum card, it was free. So kind of like, okay, so we did that. Excuse me. And got out, and started walking toward the stadium, and there was a bar, a couple bars that were really, really close to the stadium. And if we didn't know anybody that was tailgating, there was a guy, Fred, that used to tailgate every single weekend, and we would go and he would be cooking up food, and he'd have beer and soda, which I was drinking soda or water, and it was great. And I could never figure out why exactly he was doing this, because he was buying all the food, he was buying all the liquor and all the beer and all the water and all the soda, and cook, taking the time to cook the food, and he'd have chairs. I mean, he would just bring all this stuff to his tailgating. And some people, myself and Pete included, just kind of showed up because he wouldn't take any money from us. And we couldn't really buy like a beer or liquor or anything like that, because if we couldn't find him, what do you do then? You can't take that to the stadium, so you'd be kind of screwed. But anyway, a year or two back, he finally stopped doing it, and I completely understand why. Because not only did he have all the expense and taking all the time to cook the food and dragging all this stuff out every single time, he also would have the cleanup afterwards. Because as the game would get close, he would just kind of pack everything up. He wouldn't clean it then. He would wait till the game was over and get home and then do the cleanup there. But it meant he had all the preparation, all the expense, all the setup, and all the cleaning. For what? To eat a hot dog or hamburger or have a beer or a mixed drink before the game. And I get it that it was a lot of trouble, and he wasn't, I can't see how he was getting all that much out of it. So anyway, he stopped tailgating, and after he stopped tailgating, we started going to these two bars that were real close to the stadium. But when we came out of the parking lot this time around, they were both closed, and they were in the process of making a top flight, what do they call that? The golf place where you've got multiple layers of people hitting golf balls into a big net. I'm not a golfer, so I don't see the attraction. But it's a great big huge space, and they took up some of the former parking that used to be there for Ravens games, and didn't really replace it with anything except this top flight golf thing. So, and the bars were closed, so it was kind of like, what do we do? So we started just kind of walking around, and we walked to some of the various vendor areas, and I bought a hat, which I forgot to bring with me this morning, and wasn't really hungry because I ate breakfast before we left. And finally it was getting close to game time, and we walked around quite a bit, and so it's like, okay, so we just go to the stadium, anticipating a good game. And it was a good game if you were a Cincinnati fan. It was not a good game if you were a Baltimore fan. They just looked like really, really flat. The number one rusher was Lamar Jackson, which is never a good sign. But receivers weren't getting open. He was getting a lot of pressure from Cincinnati, And it was mostly just with their front four. You know, they were making penetration and getting into his face. So he would take off running. And he made some good plays while running, but if your quarterback is constantly running, that means your offensive line isn't doing what they're supposed to do. And he can get hurt, because the moment he starts running, linebackers and linemen, they'll pounce on him nothing flat, because they love seeing a running quarterback. And there was just so many mistakes made. Baltimore couldn't get anything really going offensively. Cincinnati was this kid they have as quarterback for Cincinnati. He's the real deal, and it's not just the quarterback. I mean, Cincinnati for years and years was just a laughingstock, and it didn't really matter what they did. Nothing was just making them any better. So, but this year they're really good. And I predicted, I think, earlier in the year that the Browns were going to take the AFC North, and I think I'm wrong. It could be Cincinnati, because they've beaten Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Now they've beaten the Ravens in Baltimore. They have a game coming up against if they beat the Browns in Cleveland, I think they'll take the AFC North. I don't know how far they'll get in the playoffs, but yeah, I think they'll take the AFC North. But we left after, they kept trying these they were down by 17 points in the fourth quarter, which is doable. And they still had like almost 10 minutes to go. And they get to a fourth down. They're still on their own side of the 50, and they do a fourth down play, like 4th and 5. And they don't get it. And they hand the ball over. And they did it twice. And both times, I think Cincinnati scored. Both times. It was almost like they went into panic mode. Oh, well, Lamar Jackson will save us. It's like, the guy can't do it by himself. He needs help. And the rest of the team, the running backs just weren't making any significant yards. Wide receivers couldn't get open. The offensive line just couldn't seem to run block or pass block that well. And yeah, I get there's lots of injuries, but sooner or later you got to kind of go, what's going on here? Is the team, Baltimore's team is, and there's, defensively they're still a pretty good team. The score notwithstanding, because it's kind of hard to stop a good team when you keep giving them the ball on their own side of the 50-yard line, or your side of the 50-yard line. So, anyway, Baltimore lost in spectacular fashion. And we left after the second fourth down and infinity try, where they didn't get it. And we get back to the parking lot. And it took forever to get out of the parking lot. And plus, just so many idiots. Because, this is the way it works. If you're in a big parking lot and there's multiple lanes trying to get into one line, okay, well, when you come up on that line, you let at least one person in. It's kind of an unwritten rule. It's like, just let one person in so that it keeps all the lines flowing, because you're not going anywhere fast. So just don't be a jerk. And there were so many jerks. There was one guy, I swear he was 6 inches away from the car that was in front of him, so nobody could get in front of him. And it was like, God, you jerk. I want to use other language, but I'm trying not to. And then we finally get out of the parking lot, and Baltimore police were kind of directing the flow, and they just kept holding us up to let I guess it's the main road, to let them keep going. We went through like 4 traffic lights before they finally stopped them and let us get going. And then we didn't make that light, so we had to wait like another 3 or 4 lights. And it was just poor traffic management on behalf of Baltimore's police. So many disappointments. Disappointments in the game. Disappointments in how much they were charging to park there.